The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, The Practical Vedanta, Part 1, Segment 2. For you must always remember that the one central idea of Vedanta is this oneness. There are no two in anything, no two lives, nor even two different worlds, nor even two different kinds of life for two worlds. You will find the Vedas speaking of heavens and things like that at first, but later on, when they come to the highest ideals of their philosophy, they brush away all these things. There is but one life, one world, one existence. Everything is that one. The difference is in degree and not in kind. The difference between our lives is not in kind. The Vedanta entirely denies such ideas as that animals are separate from men and that they are made and created by God to be used for food. Some people have been kind enough to start an anti-vivisection society. I asked a member, "Why do you think, my friend, that it is quite lawful to kill animals for food and not to kill one or two for scientific experiments?" He replied, "Vivisection is most horrible, but animals have been given to us for food. Oneness includes all animals. If a man's life is immortal, so is the animal's. The difference is only in degree and not in kind. The amoeba and I are the same. The difference is only in degree. And from the standpoint of the highest life, all these differences vanish. A man may see a great deal of difference between grass and a little tree, but if you mount very high, the grass and the biggest tree will all appear much the same. So from the standpoint of the highest ideal, the lowest animal and the highest man are the same. If you believe there is a God, the animals and the highest creatures must be the same. A God who is partial to his children, called men, and cruel to his children, called brute beasts, is worse than a demon. I would rather die 100 times than worship such a God. My whole life would be a fight with such a God. But there is no difference. For those who say there is are irresponsible, heartless people who do not know. Here is a case of the word practical used in the wrong sense. I myself may not be a very strict vegetarian, but I understand the ideal. When I eat meat, I know it is wrong, even if I am bound to eat it under certain circumstances. I know it is cruel. I must not drag my ideal down to the actual and apologize for my weak conduct in this way. The ideal is not to eat flesh, not to injure any being, for all animals are my brothers. If you can think of them as your brothers, you have made a little headway towards the brotherhood of all souls, not to speak of the brotherhood of man. That is simply child's play. You generally find that it is not very acceptable to many, because it teaches them to give up the actual and go higher up to the ideal. But if you bring out a theory which is reconciled with their present conduct, they regard it as entirely practical. There is this strongly conservative tendency in human nature. We do not like to move one step forward. I think of mankind just as I read of persons who become frozen in snow. All such, they say they want to go to sleep. But if you try to drag them up and say, "Let me sleep," it's so beautiful to sleep in the snow, and they die there in that sleep. So is our nature. This is what we are doing all our lives, getting frozen from the feet upwards and yet wanting to sleep. Therefore, you must struggle towards the ideal. And if a man comes who wants to bring that ideal down to your level and teach a religion that does not carry that highest ideal, do not listen to him. To me, that is an impracticable religion. But if a man teaches a religion which presents the highest ideal, I am ready for him. Beware when anyone is trying to apologize for sense vanities and sense weaknesses. If anyone wants to preach that way to us, poor sense-bound clouds on earth, as we have made ourselves by following that teaching, we shall never progress. I have seen many of these things, have had some experience of the world, and my country is a land where religious sects grow like mushrooms. Every year, new sects arise. But one thing I have marked, and that is only those that never want to reconcile with the man of flesh, with the man of truth, that make progress. Wherever there is this false idea of reconciling flesh vanities with the highest levels, of dragging down God to the level of man, there comes decay. Man should not be degraded to the worldly slavery, but should be raised up to God. At the same time, there is another side to the question. We must not look down with contempt on others. All of us are going towards the same goal. The difference between weakness and strength is one of degree. The difference between virtue and vice is one of degree. The difference between heaven and hell is one of degree. The difference between life and death is one of degree. All differences in this world are of degree and not of kind, because oneness is the secret of everything. All is one, which manifests itself either as thought, or life, or soul, or body, and the difference is only in degree. As such, we have no right to look down upon with contempt upon those who are not developed exactly in the same degree as we are. Condemn none. If you stretch out a helping hand, do so. If you cannot, fold your hands, bless your brothers, and let them go on their way. Dragging down and condemning is not the way to work. Never is work to be accomplished in that way. We spend our energies in condemning others. Criticism and condemnation is a vain way of spending our energies. For in the long run, we come to learn that all are seeing the same thing and are more or less approaching the same ideal, and that most of our differences are mere differences of expression. Take the idea of sin. I was telling you just now that the Vedantic idea is of it, and the other idea is that man is a sinner. They are practically the same, only the one takes the positive and the other the negative side. One shows to man his strength and the other his weakness. There may be weakness, says the Vedanta, but never mind, we want to grow. Disease was found out as soon as man was born. Everyone knows his disease. It requires no one to tell us what our diseases are, but thinking all the time that we are diseased will not cure us. Medicine is necessary. We may forget anything outside. We may try to become hypocrites to the external world. But in our heart of hearts, we all know our weaknesses. But, says the Vedanta, being reminded of weakness does not help much. Give strength. And strength does not come by thinking of weakness all the time. The remedy for weakness is not brooding over weakness, but thinking of strength. Teach men of the strength that is already within them. Instead of telling them they are sinners, the Vedanta takes the opposite position and says, you are pure and perfect. And what you call sin does not belong to you. Sins are very low degrees of self manifestation. Manifest yourself in a higher degree. That is the one thing to say and to remember. All of us can do that. Never say no. Never say I cannot. For you are infinite. Even time and space are as nothing compared with your nature. You can do anything and everything. You are almost almighty. These are the principles of ethics. But we shall now come down lower and work out the details. We shall see how this Vedanta can be carried into our everyday life, the city life, the country life, the national life, and the home life of every nation. If a religion cannot help man wherever he may be, wherever he stands, it is not of much use. It will remain only a theory for a chosen few. Religion, in order to help mankind, must be ready and able to help him in whatever condition he is, in servitude or in freedom, in the depths of deprivation and degradation, or on the heights of purity. Everywhere equally, it should be able to come to his aid. The principles of Vedanta, or the ideal of religion, whatever you may call it, will be fulfilled by its capacity for performing this great function. The great ideal of faith in ourselves is of the greatest help to us. If faith in ourselves can be more extensively taught and practiced, I am sure a very large portion of the evils and miseries that we have would be vanished. Throughout the history of mankind, if any motive power has been more potent than another in the lives of all great men and women, it is that of faith in themselves. Born with the consciousness that they were to be great, they became great. Let a man go down as low as possible. There must come a time when, out of the sheer desperation, he will take an upward curve and will learn to have faith in himself. But it is better for us that we should know it from the very first. Why should we have all these bitter experiences in order to gain faith in ourselves? We can see that all the difference between man and man is owing to the existence or non-existence of faith in himself. Faith in ourselves will do everything. I have experienced it in my own life and am still doing so. And as I grow older, that faith only becomes stronger and stronger. He is an atheist who does not believe in himself. The old religion said that he was an atheist who did not believe in God. The new religion says that he is an atheist who does not believe in himself. But it is not selfish faith, because the Vedanta again is the doctrine of oneness. It means faith in all, because you are all. Love for yourselves means love for all. Love for animals, love for everything, for you are all one. It is the great faith which will make the world better. I am sure of that. He is the highest man who can say with truth, I know all about myself. Do you know how much energy, how many powers, and how many forces are still lurking behind that frame of yours? What scientist has known all that is in man? Millions of years have passed since man first came here, and yet but one infinitesimal part of his powers have been manifested. Therefore, you must not say that you are weak. How do you know what possibilities lie behind that degradation on the surface? You know but little of that which is within you, for behind you is the ocean of infinite power and blessedness.